Hi, guys, and welcome back to the episode of the Spurs Up Show. This is episode 28. We're going to be breaking everything that went down in Athens, Georgia on Saturday afternoon and previewing the Gamecocks game this coming Saturday against the Florida Gators. But first, before we get into all that, if you do want to follow the show, of course, as always, be sure to check us out on iTunes at the Spurs Up Show. Be sure to go there, rate, subscribe, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like about the show. We appreciate all the feedback as always. Again, check us out on our Twitter account at ArmchairSCar. That's going to be at ArmchairSCAR. All of our latest breaking tweets there. We have a lot of breaking news that comes out on our Twitter account as well. Also, check us out on Instagram at ArmchairSCarolina, as well as ArmchairAllAmericans.com. Again, this is a podcast brought to you by the Armchair All Americans, localizing your sports coverage content. Be sure to go to ArmchairAllAmericans.com. Check out all of our latest breaking Gamecock news, stories, the show, of course, and all of our other stories there as well. So, as always, again, I'm your host, Chris Phillips, joined as always again by my colleague, Tyler Clark. Tyler, I know that neither of us went to Athens for the game Saturday, but obviously a very interesting game. A lot of takes over the weekend. I know I talked to you a little bit off air before the show and over the weekend, but obviously want to get your initial reactions. The Gamecocks go to Athens, Georgia, put up a pretty decent fight, cover the Vegas spread. If you're into that was 24. They lose the game 24-10. But talk about your overall reaction from the game and kind of how you're feeling moving into this week.
It's another one of those situations where it's like we were talking about earlier this year, where you see the record and you're happy about it, but the way it happened, you're not so excited about. And that's the way I felt about the game. I didn't think South Carolina would cover. They ended up covering, but then you watch the game, you're like, man, they had every chance to win that game. So you're kind of left disappointed. I guess that's the way I feel. Disappointed that they couldn't take advantage of some opportunities they were given.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was going to say I kind of feel the same way. I mean, it was kind of one of those weird games where, I mean, you were watching it, and I mean, you know, I think we talked a little bit last week. I'm a really, really optimistic fan. You know, I come into every game just feeling like, you know, South Carolina's got a really good shot to win. You know, if South Carolina plays their game, they've got a shot to win. And especially South Carolina, Georgia, a game that's always been close. I mean, even when South Carolina had their years where they were just, you know, they just weren't very good. And Georgia had these loaded, stacked, talented teams. South Carolina always seemed to come into that game, give Georgia really all they could handle and more, even if the Bulldogs won the game. You know, really put up a good fight. But this was a weird one. This was a game I came into, you know, kind of, you know, a little bit, I guess, tempered expectations, obviously, on the road at number one, the way Georgia had been crushing teams. I thought South Carolina obviously would play it a lot closer than everybody expected. But, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. With kind of just the way the game went, you know, some of the things expected, some not expected. But, yeah, just like the rest of the season, just sort of the way it happened was, you know, a little bit disappointing, especially with the offense, especially with, you know, the conservative play calling, which we're going to get right into. The first thing I want to talk about, though, Tyler, obviously, is I think kind of what decided the game, and really what Kirby Smart indicated in his post-game press conference was the running game. I mean, he actually said that he thought, you know, South Carolina had basically outplayed Georgia, but, you know, they just have better players and players like Nick Chubb and Sony Michel, who did not disappoint at all Saturday. Chubb led the way, 20 carries, 102 yards. Sony Michel, 16 carries for 81 yards. Both guys averaging over 5 yards a carry. I mean, and Tyler kind of making it look easy, if you will.
Yeah, I don't think Gamecock fans were disappointed in the defensive performance. The only thing you can really point out is the lack of tackling. It was a really bad effort. But then you realize you're playing two of some of the best running backs in the country. So I don't really know where you draw the line between.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think I'd give the credit more to – because I agree with you, the tackling was sloppy, but I definitely give the credit to Georgia because, I mean, there was one play in particular I remember that, you know, I don't remember if it was Michelle or Nick Chubb, but they put Sky Moore on skates. I mean, it was, you know, one of the best linebackers in the SEC, but, you know, just made him look silly. So, definitely had something to do with that, but, I mean, the Bulldogs, 438 total yards, had 242 on the ground. But like you said, just going back, you know, talking about the offense, because I think that's – the defense to me played well enough to –
They did what they were supposed
make this thing – yeah, they made this thing – played well enough to make this thing really close. I think the lack of depth kind of showed its head late in the game, which is, again, something you can't really fault them for. If the offense is able to sustain drives and let them get rest, that's something that may – you know, just may not happen quite as much. But the Gamecocks on their end unable to get any running game at all. I think they ran for 43 yards. So, I mean, averaged about 2 yards a carry. A.J. Turner had 8 carries for 35 yards. He led the way. So, unable to get anything established on the ground. I thought the offensive line didn't play that poorly, especially in pass protection. It looked like Bentley, had time to throw. He had a decent game Saturday. I mean, 21 of 35, 227, a touchdown, nice touchdown pass to Brian Edwards, 2 interceptions. One of those, he got hit right before halftime on a play, which I don't know if you could tell, Tyler, but it was wide open.
Oh, yeah, it was a touchdown. If he had the arm to get it there. I don't know if he has the arm to throw it that far, but he's wide open.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually a good play call for – God forbid it was a good play call. But yeah, just the inconsistency offense, not be able to take advantage of opportunities. Just for example, you start the game off, you get an onside kick, which was baffling to me.
My heart absolutely just dropped immediately. Just straight first play of the game. Heart.
I couldn't believe what happened.
Yeah, I can't believe Caleb Kinlaw made that play. That is such a hard play to make.
That was a great play for sure. I tell you, I'm telling you, that could have the thing I hated about that play was that I feel like Georgia was sending a message that it was a mixed message, because I was like, on one hand, Georgia's thinking, wow, they got an onside kick to beat South Carolina. On the other hand, I feel like Kirby Smart's sitting there thinking, even if we get into the 50, they're not going to score on us.
Exactly. That's the way I felt about it. Like, it was like, we're better than you and we're about to kick your you-know-whats.
Yeah. It sucked, honestly, to see, you get the ball there, first play, nice pass to Edwards, but then you stall out. You go to Parker White, who has had his struggles this year. He's done a lot better lately. Came in the game making 6 of his last 7 field goals. I think he has like a 47-yarder and misses it. And from there, it's just like, well, I literally remember sitting down in my chair going, here we go again. I mean, honestly, you spoil all the momentum of getting that onside kick. A lot of fans were calling you, maybe you should have went for it there at the 29-yard line on 4th and 5. I could definitely see it for sure. I could definitely see it. But speaking of a guy that I talked about a little bit earlier, another great game for Brian Edwards. He absolutely went off. Just continues to be basically the most reliable option for Jake Bentley. 7 catches, 62 yards. Had that great touchdown catch that was reviewed. And he's not the only one, Tyler. I mean, Ortre Smith had a solid game. Hayden Hurst came out of the woodwork. 7 catches, 93 yards. He had a great game as well. And then Shi Smith as well, even 2 catches for 28 yards. So, the thing is, when they're called upon, and these South Carolina receivers have shown, Tyler, without a doubt, even without Debo Samuel in the lineup, they're able to make big plays.
See, my main concern, I'll just get right into your Kurt Roper bullet on this script here. So my main problem, it wasn't so much on the passing downs and the play calling and the passing. My main concern was the complete what's the word I'm looking for here? Just getting rid of the speed sweep game that you had so much success with the week before. Just abandoning it. That's the word I was looking for. So you just completely abandon something. You run for 200 yards against an SEC defense, and you don't run once. You don't run it once the entire game. And that's what baffled me. And all the runs were just the simple RPO runs, and there was nothing else. It was almost like there was no design run whatsoever, except for the one that was under center.
Yeah, trust me. That's how I felt all season. I mean, yeah, jumping right into the Roper thing, obviously. I mean, I know for certain no South Carolina fan or anyone who was going to watch this game came into this game thinking, hey, South Carolina's going to win by scoring 10 points. It's just no way. And, this offense should definitely be capable of scoring 24 points. I don't care if they're playing Georgia or not. But, yeah, I agree with you. It's extremely disheartening to watch the South Carolina offense, and they get in this shotgun formation, and you have the running back to your right side. And I told the people I was watching the game with, and I've said it every game, and I'll continue to say it. Every time you see Hayden Hurst come in motion or the tight end come in motion, it's like, here it comes. Like, I mean, it's just that easy to see. And I'm sitting there like, I get it's an RPO, but there has to be some creativity with the running game where it's like, this is going to be a running play, but it's a different kind of running play. Like where is the counter? Like, do we run counters? Like,
you see what Georgia does with their running backs. I'm not saying we have Nick Chubb in the backfield, but they're so creative. They run counters, they run sweeps, they run speed options, they run straight up the middle. Everything. You see everything, and it forces the defense to just account for every single part of the field, and that's what South Carolina misses. They have no versatility on the running game, except for against Vanderbilt. It just magically showed up and then disappeared.
And no creativity either. That's the thing that kills me. Like you said, they find something that works and abandon it. There was not a single speed sweep. Like there's no reason for that. I don't. The Kurt Roper thing, it just feels like I'm beating a dead horse over and over again, but it's just so true. I mean, fans want to make excuses for why the plays didn't work, and I get it. I get that South Carolina's full of freshmen, sophomores, and South Carolina's been banged up on the offensive line, but they've got their guys back now. They have talented players at running back. Where's Tyson Williams? Still, where is Tyson Williams at? Why is A.J. Turner not being used more effectively? Why did it take this long for Hayden Hurst to have a really good game? I mean, it's just you can keep going and going. But South Carolina, I just thought – I didn't expect them to be able to run wild against Georgia, but they just really abandoned the run game really, really early, and it's because of the simple fact that another thing I thought about too, what happened to Jake Bentley keeping the ball? I watched a couple of plays where it was there. It was definitely there. I don't know if they're just telling him not to keep it or kind of what the deal is, but this lack of creativity with the running, it's just so predictable. And South Carolina is probably never going to have the talent on the offensive line where they can just line up and say, hey, we're going to run it down your throat. Kind of like what Georgia did. I just don't know that they're ever going to have that type of talent up front. It's just maddening because Kurt Roper, I don't know what it is. I don't know if he can't see it. I don't know what's going on. But it's just one of those things where I have to hope that, I think a lot of Gamecock fans have to hope that Will Muschamp is going to see the light and look back on this season and think, man, what could we have done with a really capable offense, a creative type offense, and hopefully make some type of move, because these kind of offensive outputs, that type, every time I watch South Carolina, I just think, what is their identity? What do they do well? I don't even know if they know what they do well.
Here's my main thing is, early in the season when the defense was kind of struggling, you could look at it and say, hey, Jamarcus King wasn't playing well, or Jemias Williams just doesn't look like he's ready to be out there yet, or so-and-so. I'm not saying that's the case now. They've gotten so much better. But you can't look at the offense and just say, oh, man, he's playing awful. I don't know why he's starting. There's something here. There's not just some kind of wrinkle in our offense where they're bad players playing. It's not happening. So that's how I've come to my conclusion. It's not the players' fault that we rush for 40 yards a game.
Bad scheme can make good players look average for sure. And you made another good point there, though, is like those defensive players, even the ones that were struggling or maybe were thrown in the fire early, those players have gotten better.
Jamarcus King looks like a completely different football player.
Right. He's gotten a ton better. And the offense doesn't seem to be making any progress whatsoever. Yes, against really, I want to say Arkansas, not even really Arkansas, though. Vanderbilt, you had a good game, but it's Vanderbilt. With all due respect to the Commodores, it's not Georgia, and you can't come. You just got to have a game plan. Like I said, I feel like South Carolina just lacks an offensive coordinator that's going to have them have an identity. Like, what is the identity? RPO, and you just guess whether you're going to run or pass? That's not a good offensive identity to run with. I know everyone's in love with the RPO system, and we have a runner pass option, but when you have multiple options, I feel like you don't have any options because you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what you're good at. That's the kind of thing that gets me is like, it's like if you have two good quarterbacks, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. This to me, it's just like the RPO. Like I understand the concept and it's great to have in the playbook, but the entire offense shouldn't be circled around RPO because you're just not committed to anything. So I don't know. Like I said, I just think, South Carolina's offense, I had a fan tweet it to me. I forgot exactly. I think they're 115th in the country in total offense.
Yep.
And with Kurt Roper at the helm, it's just not going to change. What in the world have fans or anyone seen from Kurt Roper to think that after year 2, going into year 3, like it's going to change? Like it's not. It's always going to be frustrating to watch and, not be very creative and be too conservative as well. So
I think I saw a stat yesterday. I think it was accounting for touchdowns scored in the last year and a half since this staff's been here. And in the SEC, I think we had scored 60 touchdowns, and that's good for 13th in the SEC.
Yeah, it's and did
And
13
South
out
Carolina
of 14.
6-3 this year
Yeah,
with the loss against.
I mean, I think everybody can agree that if South Carolina had an offense that was put in a good position and was capable, I mean, the odds of being 8-1 are very, very realistic.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, South Carolina, like I said, looks better than expected. Just the way that it happened, the defense, play their tails off once again. They continue to improve under Will Muschamp. Like I said, this is a unit that, like I said, they continue to grow every single week. Jamarcus King looks like a completely different player. Sky Moore led the way with 10 tackles, actually took the overall tackle lead, 67-66. TJ Brunson right behind him, but Sky Moore looking to lead the Gamecocks, be the only player ever in school history to lead South Carolina all 4 years of playing in tackles. So, Gamecocks are going to miss him a lot next year. But the other thing I was going to mention, by the way, two things I was going to mention, Tyler. One, Jake Fromm did prove he could throw, and not that he made these outstanding, miraculous throws. He had a couple
that
really
pretty outstanding throws.
He made some pretty outstanding. I'm saying like it wasn't
Oh
like
yeah, he didn't light it up.
There was some. Not every single throw was like threading the needle, but I'll tell you. Actually, speaking of one of his throws, what did you think about the touchdown that was not a touchdown that was reversed to a touchdown for Georgia?
No, I definitely,
you know what I'm talking about?
I definitely thought that was a touchdown.
You thought that was a touchdown?
If Brian Edwards' touchdown was a touchdown, then that one was a touchdown.
I just didn't see how you can call it incomplete on the field and then look at that replay where it's like blurry and realistically say, oh, he definitely didn't have his toe on the chalk. That's just me. I get what you're saying about the Brian Edwards one, but
yeah, when you watch it in full speed, like we were just like there was no way he caught that. And
I was like, oh, that's incomplete.
Disregarded it, and I was like, all right, what are we going to do here next? And then we look at it at replay, and the dude makes an outstanding play, like almost impossible play. I'd like to know his freaking wingspan because it looked like he was 4 feet out of bounds in normal motion, and then he somehow caught it. But yeah, I thought it was a touchdown.
Yeah, and that kind of
that's a heck of a throw too.
Yeah, no, it was. No, yeah, for sure, that was. But it stuck with my theme as well. That listen, I'm not going to be one. That game was lost by South Carolina. Georgia won that football game, fair and square, whatever. But some of the no calls on holding for UGA just blew my mind. The one that sticks out to me immediately was the first touchdown run by Sony Michel, where DJ Wanham got his jersey almost ripped off, and no call. I mean, for a team like that runs like Georgia, I don't think they had a single holding called against them all day. That just can't happen.
Yeah,
it just.
There's holding on every play in college. I don't care what anybody says. And if you don't call it on a team like Georgia that runs the ball every
you
single
got to call
play
it a little bit. I mean, so yeah, that one in particular. There's a picture where you just see DJ Wanham's jersey. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But either way, like we said, Tyler, I just thought South Carolina a little bit too conservative to beat the number 1 ranked team on the road in their house. It was obviously a wild house atmosphere. The defense continuing to fight, obviously, even though lack of depth. And, just overall, I know we kind of already said it, but I just thought it was a gutty performance. I personally think South Carolina proved, inept as they are on offense right now, I think they proved they can really hang with anybody and that they play up to their competition. There was something I kind of saw coming. So,
yeah, I feel like that's the way I lean more to it. It's playing up to your competition because, I didn't expect that either, but we wanted our podcast last week. We said get it into just a sloppy, disgusting game, and you have a chance. They got it sloppy, but it wasn't sloppy enough. I despise moral victories, and I'll never say it's a moral victory. But I guess there are some things that you could take away from it that are positive.
Yeah, no, and I'm not into moral victories either. But, yeah, I completely agree with you. I actually told the people I was watching the game with kind of the same thing. Is if South Carolina can muck this game up just enough, just kind of make it for lack of a better word, a dogfight, if you will, and just muddy the waters a little bit. They had a good shot. And, they kind of did that in the beginning with the fumble down there in the red zone,
And just recovering the outside kick, set it off.
That as well. They just honestly weren't enough turnovers. Georgia played a little too well, and, South Carolina wasn't able to capitalize on the chances they had. But
and the thing I noticed I haven't seen all year, did you notice how many tip passes there were at the line of scrimmage?
There were a lot.
Line made their blocks. They made their blocks, and Georgia's defensive line and linebackers just somehow just got to the ball and tipped it.
There were so
many plays that were stopped by tip passes, like the fourth down to Ortre Smith. the dude just lays out, makes a great play, and gets between the ball. So that was another thing I noticed. That's just tipping your cap to Georgia's front seven there.
Yeah, they're a really good football team. And the playoff rankings came out tonight. Again, obviously, they're still number one.
Do you think they're the best team in the country?
Right now, yeah. I mean, I think you kind of, for their resume, I think you kind of have to say that. I mean,
I agree.
I definitely think they would have a really, really good shot against Alabama for sure. So I just don't know if Alabama's been tested. But yeah, it's going to be a game for the ages. But, we'll have to wait till December for that one. But giving away some game balls, I'll start on offense. I mentioned him earlier. Tight end Hayden Hurst, though, kind of finally broke out. Had a pretty big game, 7 catches, 93 yards. So definitely want to give him some props for that. Defense, I had a guy we won't talk about quite nearly as much, but I picked defensive back Steven Montag. He actually forced the fumble on that opening drive. A guy that really has just been solid for South Carolina all season, just really comes in, plays hard. Seems to have a knack for the big play. So I'm going to give my game ball on defense to Montag.
All right, on offense, I'll go Brian Edwards. I don't know his stats. I think it was like 7 catches for 62 yards and a touchdown. But, yeah, if you don't score that touchdown, I don't know if South Carolina scores there in the red zone. And 24-10 looks a lot better than 24-3. So just having him to, make a big play like that, you have to make big plays like that against the number 1 team in the country. And he stepped it up. And then on defense, I got to go Sky Moore just for leading the team in tackles. Getting in there and tackling guys that you almost have no business tackling because they're so good. So I'll give it to Sky Moore.
Yeah, and mentioning Brian Edwards, big-time players make big-time plays in big games, and that was a big-time play. That was a heck of a catch. So I'm glad he's coming back next year. Sweet, the Gamecocks host the Florida Gators Saturday at Williams-Brice Stadium. It's a noon kickoff on SEC Network in Columbia. The Gamecocks are actually a 7.5-point favorite in this one. Over/under set at 45.5. The Gators do lead the all-time series 26-8-3, and the last time they met, the Gators won last year in Gainesville in what was sort of a sloppy game. Gators won 20-7 against South Carolina, and Will Muschamp's return. The Swamp. So Florida actually has a new head coach, interim head coach, if you will, Randy Shannon. He is the head coach after Florida relieved. I'm always forgetting his name.
Jim McElwain.
I'm just drawing a blank there. Already relieved Jim McElwain of his duties. The Gators coming in this game 3-5, 3-4 overall in the conference, but coming off an absolute shellacking they faced at Missouri. I don't know if anybody saw that coming, but the Gators absolutely got pummeled in Gainesville, Florida. Tyler, Florida comes in this game. Obviously, South Carolina opening 7.5-point favorite first off. I don't know if Gamecock fans, including myself, expected kind of that big of a spread. But this Florida program's in a ton of turmoil. I mean, they've had the Jim McElwain situation. They've had, Malik Zaire being named starting quarterback, and Felipe Franks kind of going off of that. They've just got a lot of drama going on within their program right now. They're down and out. My biggest question to you is, important is it for South Carolina to kind of come out and start fast, and what does South Carolina overall need to do to make that continue on Saturday and sort of maybe continue what Missouri, started in the other Columbia?
I don't know. I've had this take several times this year. I think I had it against Missouri, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas, that Florida is just not good. So if you don't go out there and just, pound it, whether it's through the air or on the ground, just run away with the game and don't let Florida into the game at any opportunity, because they just got smoked by Missouri. And I don't care how bad you are, after you get smoked by Missouri, who is just abysmal, if the competitive nature in you doesn't want to go out and win the next week, then you're playing the wrong sport. So Florida, I don't think Florida's just completely given up like Florida State has, but South Carolina's going to have to come out and pound it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, Florida's still got decent players, but the status, kind of the mental status of that program is really in an interesting state. Like I mentioned, Gators, they named, Malik Zaire the starting quarterback. Maybe fans, or maybe I know Zaire himself probably felt like they should have done way earlier. But Zaire kind of brings a different element to their offense. Obviously he was the quarterback at Notre Dame, I think 2 years ago, has more of a running ability, if you will, than maybe Felipe Franks had. But I thought it was really interesting, Tyler. Obviously he's the former Florida Gators coach, but he came out and reminded, he said that he reminded his players just kind of how, even though Florida's down and out and not in a good spot right now. I mean, South Carolina got pushed around by these guys last year. 20-7 really wasn't even that close. I mean, it was 20-0, I think, going to the fourth quarter, and the Gamecocks got a late score there. But I remember very clearly that was a game that South Carolina, a lot of people were picking South Carolina in that game. They were a very trendy pick and just, put their clamps on Jake Bentley in South Carolina. It's a huge game. Obviously, the final SEC game of the year. South Carolina's got a chance to get 7 wins. This would be their fifth SEC. No, excuse me. Their fifth SEC win. So it'd be a chance to be 5-3 in the conference. Yeah, I believe so. They're.
So you could have a winning season or a 500 season in conference. That's huge.
On a 6-3, 4-3 overall in the conference. So
wow.
You're either going to be 500 or 5-3. I don't think South Carolina's been over 500 in league play since 2013. So, definitely 5-3 is a lot better than 4-4. We'll say. Remember home games, like I said again, chance to get 7 wins. Kind of continue, to build at least. I think this is a huge, huge game. A lot of people, I've heard a lot of people with their hot takes, basically saying, thinking South Carolina is not that good due to the schedule and the SEC's down and stuff. Well, just because the rest of the SEC's down, that means South Carolina needs to take advantage of it. And this is the type of game where South Carolina, like you said, needs to come out, kick them when they're down. These are still recruiting battles that Will Muschamp and the Gamecocks are trying to win against the likes of Tennessee, Florida, even Georgia.
KJ Henry is has a visit this weekend.
He will be there. Yeah, I did see that. KJ Henry will be there. It's just big. Anytime you can beat Florida, I mean, no matter how bad they are this year, it's a program with historical significance that has generally owned South Carolina. The Gamecocks actually have a decent record against them at home, but that's even still I think Florida's 11-6-1. And the Gamecocks haven't beat them since 2013. So it definitely time to reverse that trend.
It doesn't feel like that, does it?
It really doesn't. I think it's just because how bad Florida's been, but the Gamecocks just haven't been able to beat them.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it's a very, very interesting game. A chance for Will Muschamp as well to get a win against his former ball club. I don't think he'd ever come out and say it, but I think it's going on at Florida. He left. Gator fans thought they'd put him in he had put them in such a bad situation. Well, look what Jim McElwain did. So Yeah, I think it'll be a really interesting game. Some of the key matchups going in this game for me, Tyler. The first one I'll start off with, Florida's got a really talented running back, and the name of a guy, Michael Pirine. I did have his overall statistics pulled up here. Anyways, overall, he's had a really good year for them. He's a guy, every time I watch him, I feel like he scores. He touches the ball a ton. I think it'll be big for USC defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw to stuff the middle of that line. Will Muschamp talked about today that he's been a guy that's been huge for him to take up 2 blockers on the defensive line. And while, his statistics may not always be gaudy, and he's not going to have the statistics of a DJ Wanham or Dante Sawyer or even Taylor Stallworth, with Stallworth even being questionable this week, it's going to be huge that Javon Kinlaw play a big role in the middle there and stop this running game. Because I think anybody that's watched the Florida Gators and watched Malik Zaire knows he's not the most accurate passer in the world. He's not the greatest passer in the world. So you can bet Florida's going to try to establish the run and run the football, and especially after them watching what Georgia did to South Carolina. So I think Javon Kinlaw is going to be a guy that needs to have a big impact in this game.
Yeah, the only one I have that you don't have on here is just Jake Bentley in general against Florida's defense. Florida's known for their secondaries in the last couple of years, but I don't think it's very good this year at all. But Jake Bentley needs to have 2 big games going into Clemson just because of what happened last year. He's got to go into a Clemson game with some confidence. And I know he wants a little revenge because he had a just awful game last year in the Swamp. So I think it'd be really big for his confidence just to go out and, have a 300-yard day or so, something like that, a couple touchdowns. I think that would be huge going in these last couple games.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think it'll be key for that offensive line as well to give him time to do that. But yeah, just continue to build the confidence for Jake Bentley. I mean, it's going to be huge, like you said. I love how we're already looking ahead to Clemson. You kind of can't help but do so.
Well, if Will
but yeah,
Muschamp looks ahead to Georgia during a bye week when they have an SEC game in between, I can look ahead to Clemson.
no, I agree. No, hey, as fans, we can do that. We can do that for sure. But no, yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, Jake
Plus,
Bentley's
he
going to
didn't
have
have
to
his best game the other day.
Right.
Just
Absolutely.
the natural competitor in you.
This offense goes as he goes, and he knows that. So it'll be pivotal for him to play well as well. Yeah, the second one I had, kind of staying on the defensive side. Again, I had mentioned that Florida's starting a new quarterback, if you will. They started last week, but Malik Zaire, a guy that can run a little bit, is going to give Florida kind of what Tennessee sort of tried to do against South Carolina with a little bit more effective, but kind of the read option-ish, quarterback and run type deal. I think it's going to be key for USC Buck DJ Wanham. He's had a great season so far, has been an absolute star on this defense. And it's, he's going to be kind of in that hybrid position, if you will, kind of keeping his eyes on the backfield and Zaire. I think it's going to be key for Wanham to, stay disciplined, stay in his gaps, and make sure that Zaire doesn't get any, easy running lanes and they don't really break any big runs. So I think it'll be key for him to continue his play as well. And then, my last one, going to the outside, sort of touching on the point you were, Tyler, with the Florida defense, but I've got USC wide receiver Brian Edwards against Florida cornerback CJ Henderson. Henderson stands in at 6'1". I think Brian's 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
So definitely a size advantage there. Henderson's had a pretty good year. He's actually tied for their team lead in 3 interceptions. They've got 2 different guys that are tied for that team lead. But, as we always know, they have guys that are capable on the outside. They've got guys that are capable as far as on their defense. They recruit very well. I'm not sure how many of Will Muschamp's guys are left there, but, they seem to have these guys that are really, really capable and really talented on the defensive side of the football. It's going to be very, very important that Brian Edwards make life a little bit easier on Jake Bentley, get open, get some separation. And it's going to be key they go to him, kind of expose those matchups, because Brian's the kind of guy, an Alshon Jeffrey, Sidney Rice type, where if you throw it up his way, going to come down with it. And Ortre Smith, he's kind of getting to that point as well, where you can sort of say the same thing for him. I'm sure he'll be that way kind of down the road with his career as well. But, yeah, I think Brian Edwards on the outside being able to expose those corners, because I think South Carolina, this might be a game where they've got to throw it a lot again. Tyler, sort of like you talked about just initially, add to the misery is what I wrote. Florida, is in a spot right now where their fans are very down and out. This is not the type of season the Gators were looking for. Come out early, often, and just punish Florida, and really they could put this one away early. I think that's kind of what Missouri did, to be honest with you. But don't mess around with this game, like you said. Don't let this game be close going in the second half. Florida's down and out right now. You have, even with a loss to Georgia, you have way more momentum than the Gators have. You have way more to play for than Florida has. You're going to be in front of your home crowd. It should be a packed house. I think it's actually sold out, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I read. It's sold out.
I believe it is sold out. So, it should be a raucous atmosphere. Will you be at the game, Tyler?
I will be there.
You'll be there. I will be there as well. So we'll be doing our part in the stands for sure. But, yeah, shit atmosphere, even with a noon kickoff, I think Gamecock fans are just honestly just kind of anxious to get back home. I think anytime that South Carolina's at home. But, yeah, come out, fuel the crowd. Don't give Florida any chance to really breathe at all. Just don't get pushed around like Will Muschamp said. Last year, the Gamecocks, obviously a different team for Florida as well, but, Florida kind of out-physical South Carolina. I mean, the Gamecocks weren't able to get anything on the running game again. The offensive line got pushed around. The pass blocking, made life living hell for Jake Bentley. He wasn't able to get anything going, any consistency. It's just going to be key, for the South Carolina Gamecocks to kind of stand their ground. Zach Bailey have a great game, lead that offensive line. Play solid, kind of build off what you did against Georgia. And then lastly, which is going to help the offensive line and not getting pushed around, is creativity in the running game. Tyler, we talked about it. Obviously, I literally wrote an article today He's going to do what he's going to do. Roper's not going to change, but we've got to see more speed sweeps. We've got to see a little bit of where's the shovel pass? By God, where did the shovel pass go? Just things like that. We've got to see some sort of creativity in the running game, keep Florida off balance. It's going to make those RPOs way more effective and give Jake Bentley the ability, like you were saying, to have a big game and build some momentum.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of those, Lloyd. I mean, I think finishing over 500 in the SEC would be a huge milestone. Just after a 3-9 and after what happened last year, the first half of the year, you kind of get beat around. I mean, you could go 5-3 in the SEC. I don't think anyone predicted that at the beginning of the year. So to go 5-3 would be pretty outstanding progress. And giving the fans something to cheer about in a noon game, because earlier this week I was like, do I really want to go to a noon game? And then I realized what my 12-year-old self would do if I didn't go to a Florida game. Like my 12-year-old self would kick my ass. So definitely will be at the noon game and be excited about it. And the defense, I think you got to get in Malik Zaire's face. Just be physical. They're not Georgia, so if you could put up the same kind of physicality you had against Georgia against Florida's offensive line, Malik Zaire could have a long day. And as you said earlier, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. Well, they've played three quarterbacks this year, so they're not very good. Just go at them.
Yeah, it's like Javon Kinlaw said kind of last week. I think you could sort of carry to every week of the season, though, is brush your teeth physical. Come after Florida and punch him in the mouth. I agree with you. Just get Malik Zaire's face because, he's not the kind of guy that's even great. He's not even with great protection, much less, under duress, I don't think. So, it'll be interesting to see kind of how they attack him. I know that, Will Muschamp and those guys will have a really good plan for him against that offense. So, we're going to move right into it. Tyler, I'll let you start going into – like you said, this will be, week 10 of the season. It feels like just yesterday we were previewing the season. We couldn't wait for it to get here. Now we're going to week 10. And the Gamecocks, like you said, had the chance to go 5-3 in conference. First time being over 500 since 2013. A chance to go to 7-3, build some momentum. I'll lay out flat for you. What happens on Saturday against Florida?
Oh, man. I haven't thought about this yet either. What was the final score of the Missouri game? Do you know? Off the top of your head?
For the Florida-Missouri game?
Yeah.
I want to say something like 49 – or excuse me, it was a 45-16 Missouri.
Gosh. Missouri held Florida to 16 points. All right, I'm going to go boldest call of the year. Florida doesn't score a touchdown. South Carolina wins 21-3.
I like that. I like that call a lot. I really do. Yeah, I could definitely see it happening too. That'd be awesome. I'd like that. I sort of agree with what that score prediction. I'm going to say Florida does get a touchdown, but
I'm just trying to be bold.
With this, no, I like it. No, I like it for sure. I like it for sure. This is an interesting game in the sense, I definitely think Will Muschamp wants to beat Florida. I think he wants to kind of hey, not so much you shouldn't let me go, but he wants to show that he's grown and that he's, on to bigger and better things here at South Carolina. Overall, I think
the Will Greer tweet today, the West Virginia.
I didn't. What is it?
It was some kind of West Virginia thing. Will Greer made some kind of awards watch list, and Will Muschamp just slides in with the retweet, just sly retweet, just saying, "Oh, I've never got a quarterback. Well, here's one. I'll suspended him."
Yeah, exactly. No, I like that. Yeah.
So he still hates Florida.
Yeah, for sure. And I think South Carolina's players, obviously, they want to get a 7-3, 5-3 in conference. Be a huge step for the program. Continue to build the momentum of this program. I mean, a lot of people pick South Carolina. Their over/under total, by the way, just before the season, their over/under total for wins was 5.5.
Yep, I vividly remember that.
I am kicking myself. I've sworn off ever betting on my own team because
I have to, or else I would.
You bet on them, you just jinx them. So, but anyways, this is one of the most interesting things. South Carolina has a chance to get to 7 wins. You count into, you take into account Wofford, who South Carolina should obviously absolutely beat, even though those games are always too close for comfort. You look at 8 wins. Good. You look at 8 wins there. This is a huge game. Basically, everything you've done to this point this season the momentum you've built, even with the loss of Georgia, like I said, even the momentum you've built, this is a game where you have to win this game. You have to. Against a Florida team like this that's just looks disinterested in being on the field anymore. I mean, like I said, they lost 45-16 to Missouri. Who South Carolina handled, who South Carolina really handled. I know they're playing a little better, but never have the type of athletes Florida's got. So, with that being said, I just think way too many things are going against Florida right now. I think South Carolina's a much better football team than Florida right now. I think that South Carolina will continue to thrive on defense, look for big plays, from guys like DJ One and maybe Brad Johnson kind of gets involved this week. Chris Lamons, again, I think the offense will do just enough. I don't think it'll be pretty win by any means because I don't know if South Carolina, right now, every game they seem to play, even when they win, is not really a pretty win. But I think the Gamecocks get it done at home. I think they do pull away late. I don't feel like, sort of kind of what I said about the Vandy game. And that game turned out to be closer than we expected. I don't know that it'll really ever feel like the game's like in jeopardy, if you will, where Florida's genuinely threatening. But I do think it'll be a fairly competitive game, maybe like a 10-point game at halftime. But I think South Carolina somewhat pulls away. I see the Gamecocks winning this one. South Carolina 24, Florida 10. So I do think the defense is a really good day. They cover the spread, and the Gamecocks are happy moving into against Wofford. So with that being said, we got some listener questions. We're going to move into some really good questions tonight. This one first from Reddit, our loyal listener, JS Hokie 1. We always appreciate you and your questions. I'm not usually one for moral victories, but this UGA game doesn't count as one. What do we need to do to avoid the trap game that Florida has become? They lost to Missouri by 30. If you're T-Rob, what are your biggest takeaways from the Georgia game? Both positives and negatives are fine. I'll kind of start with this one, Tyler. First off, he talks about what do you need to do to avoid the trap game that Florida has become. Well, first, I don't think South Carolina is going to overlook Florida. I don't think Will Muschamp's going to allow them to overlook Florida. Right. I mean, there were a lot of other chances this season where South Carolina was able to have a trap game, if you will. People might even say Kentucky was a trap game. I don't know that it really was. It was. I just think South Carolina played bad, but I just don't see the Gamecocks coming into this game overlooking Florida by any means, just because you haven't beat them in 4 years and literally what happened last year. So I don't think they'll overlook them at all. I think Will Muschamp is stressing, obviously how important this game is. And if you're T-Rob, biggest takeaways from the Georgia game, you played a really good Georgia rushing offense. I think your biggest takeaways, you have to be, you can't be disappointed in your guys. I mean, they played their tails off, and you've got some really skilled players on the defense. It's just about developing the young guys and getting more depth in recruiting. I mean, I think that has to be the biggest takeaway right now. You've got really good players, but I mean, the way that Jamias Williams has been thrown in the fire this year, I mean, I can't wait to see how good he's going to be next year and like his junior year. I mean, he's going to be a great player, but right now it's just got to be about building depth, continue to develop young guys, try to rotate them in as much as possible, but, continue to attack. Because I think South Carolina defense, they're best when they're on the attack and, forcing the offense into mistakes. You got anything to add to that, Tyler? Sorry, I kind of know I stole that one away. But
like I said earlier, I don't know if it's a takeaway or not. Just the tackling was so sloppy, and I think we'll see this week if it was a problem or not. Because I don't think Florida has guys that are halfway as big as Nick Chubb. So we'll see. But there's no way as a defensive coordinator you're not concerned with that. But I don't think Florida's a trap game at all. There's no way, because Steve Spurrier wanted to just destroy Florida, and that was my first Florida game I ever went to. Was 2005. Line was Steve Spurrier playing Florida for the first time. I'm not saying Spurrier, but he's got to hate Florida somehow.
Yeah, no, I agree with you absolutely. This question comes from Twitter at Sean_Holstenback, good buddy of mine. Thanks for leaving a question, Sean. Why doesn't one of these reporters ask Muschamp directly about this inept offense we see each week? Tyler, I'll let you take that one.
I think they do. We see it a lot. They ask about the poor offense, but Muschamp kind of deflects it, and he's just like, we'll watch the tape and we'll get back to it. And then no one ever asks him again about it. So I think that's just Muschamp being smart.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of one of those situations. He's never just going to go roast his guy, but, I know that we remember after the Texas A&M game when he blatantly said, we have to have more offense to win. I mean, we're just not going to win with this offensive output we're getting. Like I said, I don't know this for a fact, but I do want to believe that Will Muschamp is wise. He said he learned from his Florida days coaching. I think he's learned that he's going to have to seriously look at this and really decide, am I really going to stick with this guy, this Kurt Roper guy, or am I going to give somebody else a chance? Because if I can't produce on offense, we can't get an offense going, eventually it will be my downfall. Yep. So I want to hope and believe he's smart enough to realize that. Twitter at Kenneth Usher. Do you think Kurt Roper has Jake Bentley trying to do too much this year, such as protections and reading coverages? Is it the reason he's a little off this year, or is it just possibly the sophomore slumps? I know in the past I've seen some players struggle their second year and then go back to normal third and fourth years. I'll take this one. You know what? First of all, I don't think Jake Bentley's in a sophomore slump. I don't think he's playing that bad, and I think to put anything that's happening with this offense on Jake Bentley is a little irresponsible. I mean, I understand. Listen, he's missed some throws. Without a doubt, Jake Bentley's missed some throws, but that plays college football misses some throws. Every sophomore that plays college football misses some throws. It's just kind of a fact. I mean, it happens. Now, are they putting too much on him with protections and coverages? I don't really know. I don't really think so. I mean, I don't want to say from watching clearly just watching from the games, I don't think so. I just think lack of creativity. I mean, I just think that I don't know that he's getting put in the best possible position to make plays, and obviously having no running game at all is not helping him out either.
Yeah, I agree. So that last part I agree with the most. If you don't have a running game, they're looking for the pass every single time. They don't care about your running game when they're one defensive tackle can just make the play by himself. So, yeah, if your running game isn't opening up the pass, your quarterback's going to have a long day because he's going to have to look through 12 progressions because there's going to be 8 guys downfield covering every single receiver.
Yeah, and I mean, you think last year, I mean, Jake Bentley, I mean, when he played last year, he had the running game. Rico Dowdle was going off. I mean, He had that running game. And, I mean, really, honestly, for how Jake Bentley's played this season with the lack of running game he's had, I mean, he's played pretty damn good when people just know he's throwing the football. So I don't think Jake's really had a sophomore slump, if you will. I just think the expectations for not only him, but this entire offense were so high, and rightfully so. And they obviously have not performed up to everyone's expectations. Last question, Twitter, at Jackson Raymer. How badly is South Carolina going to beat Florida tomorrow, Saturday? We gave our score predictions.
18 points on the dot.
18 points on the dot. Hopefully by 50. I don't know. I'd like to see 45-16 South Carolina.
Cox by 90, yeah.
Yeah, Cox by 90, exactly. So with that being said, pretty much going to wrap us up. We do have another little tidbit of news, though. South received some pretty good news. Deebo Samuel announces, Tyler, he's coming back in 2018. Got to be good news for the Gamecocks. I mean, I'm glad to see it. I know he's still probably going to test the waters in the draft, but, I want to believe, him and Bryson Williams have been tweeting talking all over Twitter. They're coming back, and I really do want to believe it. And I do believe it. I believe what, Deebo says, but huge get for South Carolina there to have Deebo come back.
Yeah, I'm slightly skeptical too, but that leaves you with 3 guys on this current team that come back next year ready to go. That leaves you with Deebo, that leaves Bryson Allen Williams, and Jalen Dickerson, who never saw a snap. That's 3 guys that will undoubtedly start next year. And then mix that with if you get a couple guys in a recruiting class that can help you out next year, that looks pretty good. Yeah, Zach Bailey's the one other guy I'm worried about. Zach Bailey comes back for his senior year. That'd be pretty insane.
Be huge. Yeah.
My only thing with he's only played, if you think about it, he's played 2 games his freshman year, a full season last year. He missed 4 games, I think, at the early part of the year, and he played 3 or 4 games this year. He doesn't have the resume, I don't think, to be a very high draft pick.
Yeah, I think at this point he's almost got to I don't know. He's almost got to come back. I mean,
Right, because he has such a high upside.
Game experience really to, base it off that. But yeah, I mean, I'm really glad. I would love to see him kind of have a comeback season, have a full healthy season, obviously. And I mean, you just, start to think about Samuel, Brian Edwards, or Trey Smith, Shi Smith. Now that these guys, beginning of the season, we were just talking, it was Ortre and Shi. They never even played a snap. Now it's like, wow, these guys are legit. So, it could be big. It could be really big. Obviously we'll look at that more in 2018, but, definitely good news, obviously, to have Debo coming back. We wish him nothing but the best with his recovery and, expect big things out of him. So, Tyler is going to have a college basketball preview coming. The Gamecocks, Frank Martin's squad open up Friday at Wofford in a game that I think was planned. Hopefully Zion Williamson's there. But open Friday, Tyler, college basketball season's back, basically. I mean, it's pretty much here.
Yeah, it is. I don't know how I feel about the Gamecocks this year, but it'll be fun.
It should be interesting.
It'll be interesting to say the least.
A lot of new faces. You got to trust in Frank, but yeah, I mean, it should be fun. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it, honestly. So, it was always a fun time. So, Gamecocks, like I said, opened up at Wofford Friday night. Their first home game isn't for a while. We'll kind of look into that. And obviously, we'll be previewing the games as well. But good to have kind of everything going on. Obviously, we're in full swing with football right now. Again, plus follow the show. Go to iTunes at the Spurs Up Show. Go there, rate, subscribe. Of course, follow us on our Twitter account at ArmchairSCar. Again, follow us on our Instagram account as well at ArmchairSCarolina. And be sure to go to ArmchairAllAmericans.com for all the latest breaking Gamecock news, coverage, articles. Again, check out Tyler's South Carolina basketball preview. It's going to be coming out in the next couple of days. But with all that being said, I think that's about it. You got any last words?
I think I got everything off my chest.
Everything off your chest. Always good to hear. All right. Well, like we said, Gamecocks facing the Florida Gators, noon Saturday afternoon in Williams-Brice Stadium. Make sure you're there. If you're not there, make sure you watch. We'll be checking with you guys next week, recapping everything with the Florida game and previewing the Wofford Terriers. Till then, we appreciate you guys listening. As always, we'll catch you next time.